In Durham, in October 2015, we received 3 outstanding gradings for efficiency. We were the only force to secure that from Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary, when we're not complacent, but I think it's worth just thinking through how we achieved that. And we achieved that by not looking through efficiency through the lens of money, but looking through the efficiency through the lens of people. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that one of the things that HMIC spotted, and I know because they told us, was it feels different here. And it feels different here because Pearlcatchers were part of that shaking the old, very sometimes straight-jacketed view of policing. So what we've done is, which is what Pearlcatchers said on the tin, they were going to explore difference with us and give us a completely different training experience. And I think that part of other things, of course, it's always a mixture, but there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that that efficiency label of 3 outstandings, which is superb, is partly because we look through the lens of people, not money, and partly because we gave people a completely different diet to think about their own development in a completely different way. Once you've pretended to be an insect in front of all your colleagues, it does encourage difference. I think the fact that we brought in outsiders. So when I think about what made the difference for us, what was the most significant? I mean, it was all important, but the one thing for me was bringing in outsiders, people who we'd not been exposed to before, and people who brought their own quirky view of the world, really. And because all too often in policing, you think, well, why don't they like us? Why don't they get us? And it's because we don't know what they don't know, and you become complacent when you look at yourself. So I didn't want the training program, the development program, to be delivered by some of our very expert trainers, because it wouldn't have had that freshness, and it wouldn't have had the appeal of this is how we are seen. Because what we're trying to do at the same time was encourage people to see that the public judging us and their confidence in us was a key part of our overall strategy. So, in one word, the one difference that Pearlcatchers offered us at the time of starting the programme was otherness. When we did the Altogether Different programme, and we were looking there at first line supervisors, because just a bit of history here, but we first decided that we wanted to spend, in the first instance, invest £100,000, was when we had our first in-year cut when the coalition came into power in 2010. And we decided that because we were going to be letting so many people go, and the organisation was going to shrink very quickly, we needed to bolster first line supervisors and second and third line supervisors, as it happened. Now, when we spoke to them in the programme, they gave a resounding bounce back to the Altogether Different programme. So very well, you're doing this with us, but what about that lot, meaning me, and my colleagues? So that's when we sat down and we said, fair shout, that lot, me, my colleagues, we needed to experience something like this again. So that's where the Giant Leap was born. And it became much more bespoke, so it trailed the Altogether Different stuff, but of course it had a rich seam of raw material, because all of the Altogether Different programme was then raw material for us. So all that anonymous feedback, group feedback, then became the raw material for Giant Leap, which was a hugely powerful base for us, because when you're getting an uncomfortable truth, if the person who's delivering it's saying, well, it's all very well for you to say, to dispute this, but this is actually what people said last week. So that was hugely powerful for us in terms of understanding the temperature of the organisation and what we needed to listen to. So as a result of that, we were then able to develop that. So we weren't simply using the feedback from the Altogether Different programme all the time. That was our launch. And then once we'd got that buy-in at senior leadership, we then were able to build a very powerful team. So for the first time, we were meeting and having a bit of a laugh, really, as a top team, because sometimes when you're leading an organisation, there aren't that many opportunities for laughs, especially in our business. So it relieved the tension, and people got to know each other as people. So, and there is that old saying, isn't it? You can only make friends in time of peace. You know, in time of war, it's not the time to do that. So, and often we were actually asking people to work together for the first time when there was a real heat of battle, critical incident, getting it right. You know, a lot of slings and arrows thrown in our direction. So, for that friendship to happen in a giant leap. So, and it wasn't an aimless, you know, let's have a good time. This was really focused on what we wanted to achieve as force. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that that giant leap, building on that strong foundation of this is what your first line supervisors are saying about your style, pal, you need to listen to this rather than preach, physician, heal thyself. So that was really important. So there was a real strength to it. And then to align that to, so where do we want to be as a team, and then really building that strong team ethic. It all sort of fitted together. I'd like to say that I had this grand vision, that that's how it was all going to pan together. I had a sort of an idea that this is how it would pan out, but it certainly panned out better than I thought it would. Build together a very strong team that can speak honestly to each other, where we can have fun and games together, but also a serious purpose, and it feels different. So it feels like it's reduced the tension, it's increased the understanding, and I think people have more fun, and there's less bite at the top team, and there's enough bite in this world without adding to it. Oh, God, the $64,000 question. Would I do anything differently? Well, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But I actually think the stumbling through the learning together it's jolly hard to unpick that stumbling as well. For example, one of the things that we stumbled upon was how to give me 360-degree feedback as a senior leader. And so we did a Wordle. And I've actually got 2 Wordles on my wall. So these are the things where if you repeat a word often enough, it gets bigger. So I've got a deputy's Wordle from 2013, I think, and I've got a chief's Wordle from 2015, and they are markedly different. But they serve as a timely reminder for me on my wall that I should think about some of the words that aren't as large as others, but they're still there, and some of them not very complimentary. And it also serves as a reassurance to people who are in my office that I've listened to what they said. So how that Wordle came about was the people in the Giant Leap programme, which is chief inspectors and civilian support staff equivalent and higher in the organisation, all getting together. And I wasn't there for a day. Peter and I sat down and decided this might be a good thing that I wasn't there, just to see what the dynamic was, for him to assess what the dynamic was when I wasn't there, and to assess whether or not my style might be a little bit, because I am enthusiastic. So sometimes that enthusiasm can sometimes be a bit, it can reduce the space that other people have. So, and as a result of that, he then got playful, I think, because he wasn't running this past me before he did it. He said, well, what's Mike Barton like on a good day and what's he like on a bad day? And these Wordles emerged from that. And they were hugely helpful for me to understand where I was at that time and what to do differently. And the reassurance was the Wordles changed significantly in the direction we wanted them to go. So would I do that differently? Well, no, if I did it differently, it wouldn't have happened, because that was an accidental thing where Pete was brave and then squared it with me afterwards, and I was happy with that. So I think it's bespoke nature of working with your own organisation is its strength. So this doesn't feel like somebody coming in, Pearlcatchers coming in and saying, right, you're going to fit our straitjacket. This feels much more like Pearlcatchers coming in and saying, we will mould ourselves to you, whatever that is. When you embark on a programme like this with Pearlcatchers or similar, you're always thinking, is there going to be a dependency culture here? You know, are we going to have to continue to put coal on the furnace? Are we going to continue to have to pay for stuff? And it might be rather nice for Pearlcatchers to have a regular check. That didn't strike me as being a sustainable model in the current climate. So what's been really helpful is Pearlcatchers strikes me, and I know this is a cliche, that Pearlcatchers strike me as being a company that give you a rod and teach you how to fish rather than giving you the fish. And there have been all sorts of examples of where individuals have taken responsibility for creating action learning sets that have continued to flourish. So I think the action learning sets component of the Pearlcatchers programme, and of course the giant leap, which is the bigger action learning set, which is the senior leadership team. I mean, we've only just had a really striking day a week ago. So this is early 2016, I'm saying this. And we had a chap in, he's just taken over as head of marketing for the Police and Crime Commissioner. The Police and Crime Commissioner's people were there as well, excuse me. And he said, oh, well, I might be available for the morning. And he came for the morning. And he stayed for the afternoon. So that tells me that we've got that sustainability. It's fresh and it continues to challenge what we're doing. So I think it's the action learning sets and its sustainability that has really struck me. We've become, as a result of the programme and its flex, I think we have become a more open organisation. So, for example, the Magistrates Inspectorate of Constabulary, who we're getting good marks from them at the moment. They've got some of my homework there marking as we speak. So we don't want to become show ponies that, you know, primp up very nicely when people come along and judge us. You know, we're working horses here. You know, we lift things and we carry things, but we're also mindful that we're judged on our appearance, so we care for that as well. And we've come up with a phrase that when anybody comes to see us, we ask them to tell us what they think we ought to do differently, what we need to improve. So we've become a very open organisation that is happy to accept the opinion of the people who come and see us. And we always say that anybody who comes in to inspect us, it's free consultancy. So rather than seeing HMIC and others as a threat, we've encouraged everybody in the organisation to see it as free consultancy. And the sort of feedback loops that we developed with Pearlcatchers, which was we always took out the names, so it was always anonymised. But there was a regular conversation with Pearlcatchers people. So what do you think? And in the early stages of the Pearlcatchers programme, and this was hugely powerful, and a lot of people overlook it, we actually offered one-to-one feedback sessions on 360 degree with expert coaches and mentors from Pearlcatchers. So again, external, utterly anonymous. And the first time that some of our first and second tier leaders had of a professional talking through what that feedback meant. So not taking it personally, You know, this is constructive, doesn't feel constructive at the minute, feels a bit hurtful. So let's work through what that is. And I think that microcosm of what happened to an individual has allowed them to understand what we mean when we say HMIC coming and judging us is actually free consultancy. I think that personal relationship with Pearlcatchers was integral to it, as it always is. I mean, if there isn't mutual trust, I was really fed up with the way that we actually procured this. It just seemed to go on for years. It probably didn't, but we have definitely made our procurement processes much slicker since then. I understand that now that people can procure Pearlcatchers on the framework, which of course cuts out all that pain that I went through. But what it did do, that process, it really did distill the best five. And then as a result of that best five, we chose Pearlcatchers. I'm very happy to do that. So did I know about Pearlcatchers before that procurement process? Never heard of them. I thought there were people who dived down in the coral reef and found an oyster on the bed of the Pacific Ocean. So having been acquainted with Pearlcatchers through the procurement process, what we then very quickly did was form a very trusting relationship with them. So it wasn't a relationship that was born of extensive procurement and contracts and, oh, well, I'm sorry, but that wasn't in, or I'm sorry, you'll find that, or you'll have to re-tender for that. There was never any of that in the relationship with Pearlcatchers. It was very, right, how do we make the most out of this? What do we want out of this arrangement? Which of course was an improved organisation, and the staff who were part of it, the people who were part of this programme, feeling that it was theirs. And we quickly reached that position from a very formal process. There's absolutely no doubt that we have got back far more than the money that we've invested. What is that? Well, we've tested it in a number of different ways, and if people were to come to the force, Gary Ridley, my Assistant Chief Officer, would be happy to talk to you about what he feels are the payback is. Our former leadership guru, Hannah Bell, who's now working on her own, would be happy to talk to you if you want to come and talk to me. So in terms of pounds and pence, I think it wouldn't be accurate to extract from our improvement, so what did Pearlcatchers offer? But I'm very happy to describe it as far more than what we actually put in. I think any organisation that's going through significant change, one of the first things to do, especially if they're cost cutting, is they cut training, they cut staff development. We did the opposite. So at the time of our greatest crisis, we invested more in our staff development. And I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I mean, just out of the last 9 things that HMIC has looked at, we've had 8 outstandings and 1 good. Well, you know, HMIC is not noted for his generosity. Well, could I recommend Pearlcatchers to other people? Well, of course I could. I mean, I'm not going to embark on a marketing campaign, but yeah, I'd be more than happy to suggest to other people that they need to look at Pearlcatchers and sit down and talk to them. Don't just look at what it says on the tin. Our experience was when you actually stopped the car, lifted the bonnet and had a look inside, you learnt a lot more than what it looked like in a distance. So I would always encourage you to speak to people in Pearlcatchers and see what it can offer you. It's good for us. Who are these Pearlcatchers people? Well, they're not those chaps that I read about in Ladybird books in the 1960s with a leather bikini bottom on dive into the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. But it does what it says on the tin. I mean, the implication, of course, Pearlcatchers, we find the pearl. I think they're probably the grit in the oyster rather than the pearl. So not only do they catch pearls, but they allow everybody in the organisation to have the grit in the oyster so that they can all manufacture a pearl. So they might want to flex their marketing to cover that. Yeah, but I think they are the grit in the oyster. They are the point of difference, where they're the mirror that you can encourage your people to look at to see themselves accurately, to see themselves for what they are rather than what they believe or would want themselves to be. I think they're brave as well in terms of being able to say to the senior leaders of my organisation, I think you might find reality is slightly different to how you've remembered it, and that was really useful. So I suppose creativity, the grit in the oyster, and the courage. But my message to people involved in the public sector, and in particular policing, is there has never been a better time to invest in development. And sometimes bringing in people from outside has more resonance for your people. Profits in their own land are never heard. And so I think that would certainly be something that I think people need to reflect on, now more than ever.